Okay. Hello, children. Now, in the same topic of polymorphism, we start with the second type of overloading, that is operator overloading. Earlier, we had discussed about function overloading. We had understood the meaning of the word overloading. So, here we'll be talking about operator overloading. Operator is a symbol by which any operations can be done, like plus, minus, plus plus, minus minus, decrement and increment operators also. In fact, scope resolution operator, every symbol that we are using in C++ is an operator, dot operator we call it. So all these are operators. We'll see how operator overloading is used. Now children, the basic concept behind this is that we had started with classes. Class is a user defined data type, and in class we have tried to, with this user defined data type, we had tried to do everything that a built in data type can do. Built in data types like int, char, float, all these are built in data types. All right, function, class, these are user defined. Now class is one kind of a user defined data type which we will try to make it at par with the user built-in data types. So we want that these user-defined data types behave in the same way as the built-in data types behave. Like two variables of user-defined data types with the same syntax will be applied as we apply it to the built-in data types. So to give this kind of a mechanism, a special meaning function is created, and that special meaning function is done with the help of operator, and hence it is called as operator overloading. So if we are here, as on the screen also we can see that operator overloading, it provides ability to an operator to perform other manipulation operations other than its original operation. Children, from this point, one thing we have to remember is that if I'm talking about an operator, its identity is not going to be changed. I cannot make a plus operator do a minus operation. I cannot do that. Okay, so these are in the rules of the operator overloading, that the original identity is not changed. It's just that I make the operator do the operations as it has been doing with the built-in data types also. So the second point says that it preserves the original function of the operators, okay, and works with the user-defined data types. It can be used in class as a friend or as a member function, both. As a friend function also can be used, or as a member function it can be used. Now, earlier we said that it is a special kind of a function. So look at the top of the screen. It says this is the syntax of the function. Return type, we give the return type of the function, name of the class to which the function belongs to. Operator is the keyword. Keyword means this has to be added along. Okay, this operator is a keyword, and operator symbol. Symbol means which operator is being overloaded. Plus hai, minus hai, decrement hai, increment operator. Which operator is being overloaded? Uska symbol यहाँ पे आएगा. And the argument list. Then the function body, because it's a function, it will be within curly braces. So again here, general syntax has been written. Return type, class name, scope resolution operator, आउटसाइड द फंक्शन, आउटसाइड द क्लास है इसलिए स्कोप रेजोल्यूशन लगा रहे हैं. जनरली इसको आउटसाइड द क्लास ही लिखा जाता है फंक्शंस को. Operator keyword op is the symbol. Okay. For example, look here, vector operator plus. Vector here is the name of the class, operator is the keyword operator, plus is the symbol with which the operator that has to be overloaded. Okay. Now for the overloading process, children, these are theory questions which can be asked. It involves the following steps. You have to create a class that will define the data type which is used to be used to overload. The function has to be defined. Declare the operator function like we showed it in the syntax in the public part of the class, and define the operator function to implement when it is required. So because it's a function, declare करना है और उसको define करना है. ठीक है? As a function we have to do these things. Now operator overloading, as I discussed earlier, that operator overloading is required because we want that the user defined data types also do the same thing that the built-in data types do. Okay. So in this process we are in easing the use of the principle of operator of object oriented programming, because with the help of these overloading mechanisms we can maintain the object oriented programming concepts also, and we can do, because हमारा basic concept है hiding, data hiding can be done with the help of a class which has been created by the user. तो अगर user ने ये चीज create की है तो it should not be left behind by certain points कि okay built in तो ये कर सकता है लेकिन user defined data type ये चीज नहीं कर सकता है. So operator overload ये sorry object oriented programming is not to the concept is not perfect. This we do not want. That is why operator overloading has been introduced. Okay. Now this at the end that it is written used, the process has been used like this. This will understand with the help of a program. Okay. The basic types of operators that we have are unary and binary. Unary is where you require one operand, plus plus a minus minus, increment and decrement operators can be as unary operators. And binary is which requires two operands, a plus b. Plus is the operator, a and b are the operands. So you can overload unary operator also, a binary operator also. We'll see the example for a unary and the binary operator both. This is an example for unary operator. Now look here carefully, children. I have tried to bring it in one complete slide so that it doesn't get divided. The name of the class is space. It has three data members, x, y, z, and it has three member functions: get data, display, and operator is also one of its functions. It's a member function. Operator के आगे क्या है? Minus. So that means here I am declaring a function which will overload the minus operator as a unary operator. Clear? Look at the second part of the program. Get data has been defined. X is equal to a, y is equal to b, z is equal to c. जो a और b और c से हमारे को main में values मिलेंगी, these values will be transferred to x, y and z respectively. और display में x, y, z को हम display कर रहे हैं. Both these functions are defined outside the class. That is why the scope resolution operator has been used. The third function that has been defined, the third part, look at the third part, void space scope resolution operator, operator and the symbol. Just remember the syntax. return type, name of the class, scope resolution operator, operator keyword and the symbol. Now this minus को हमने एक minus में, see children, understand very carefully, listen what I'm saying. This minus function, in one step it is going to negate all the three data members of the class. X is equal to minus x, y is equal to minus y, z is equal to minus z. ये हमारे function का definition है. That means if I call the function minus, it is going to do these three things. That means by one calling of minus, I'll be able to negate three values at a time. This is my function. Okay, one minus is negating, one minus function is negating three values. Okay, now look at the main में हमने ऑब्जेक्ट क्रिएट किया है स्पेस s. With the help of that object, I am calling my function get data. So s dot get data, I am sending the values 10, 20 and 30. Where do the values go? 10 goes in A, 20 goes in B, 30 goes in C. And from that function's definition of get data, A's value is given to X, B's value given to Y, and C's value is given to Z. And s dot display. So till here, fine. We have been doing all this. So it will display 10, 20 and 30. Clear? अभी next step में आप देखो, माइनस s लिख दिया आपने. s क्या है? एक ऑब्जेक्ट है. ऑब्जेक्ट का डेटा टाइप क्या है? एक क्लास है. ठीक है. I have negated an object, children, here. S is not a simple variable. Now compare this when you write int a and minus a. Easily कर सकते हैं हम, there is no problem. I have done the same thing with the help of the object and the class. Space s. S is an object which holds what? The functions and the member functions, member data members. उसको negate कर दिया मैंने. The moment I use my symbol जिसका function लिखा हुआ है with the help of the operator keyword with the object, that means I am activating my overloaded function. So here this line activates operator minus function. तो माइनस फंक्शन क्या है? ये है. और वो क्या करता है? ये करता है. x को भी नेगेट कर रहा है, y को भी नेगेट कर रहा है और z को भी नेगेट कर रहा है. तो now when I say s dot display, now what values are going to be displayed? Minus 10, minus 20, minus 30. So with one minus s, I have negated three values, children. This is overloading of the unary operator. Understood? Okay. So here I have just negated the values, the data members, use the object. With the help of the object only. देखो operator का जो overloading है children, always remember with the help of object ही activate होता है. उसको specially call नहीं करना पड़ता है the way we use the other data members. Remember this. When I use the operator with the objects, that means what am I doing? I am invoking my operator function. Okay. Now, as I said, unary operators can be overloaded, which I showed you the example. The binary operators also can be overloaded. Now this plus can be used, obviously we know the plus can be used to add to int variables or float variables, no problem, they are built in. अब user defined variables कौन से होते हैं? Objects. तो if I create a kind of a function which is adding two objects, then I say that I am overloading the binary operator. ठीक है, तो यहाँ पे जो हमने ऑब्जेक्ट्स लिखे हैं एज arguments a and b, if I straight away use the operator as plus, these two are objects, that means I'm overloading the operator. उसको सिंपल इंट और फ्लोट को ऐड करना आता है, कैर को भी वो कंकैटिनेट कर देता है. But when I talk about objects, children, object is not something which contains one thing, it contains many data members. So many data members with one operator being added is called as operator overloading. This is an example of operator overloading. This is your practical question also, children. And for theoretical, there are many other questions through which it can be explained, but because it is there in your practicals also, this same question is there, so we take this as an example to explain you the meaning or the working of the binary operators. Okay, now look at what is this question doing. It is adding two complex numbers, and I am sure you know that the addition of complex number is not simple, it is complex. You have two parts, इमेजिनरी एंड फ्लोट. ठीक है, आयोटा वाला पार्ट इमेजिनरी होता है, दूसरा पार्ट हमारा सॉरी इमेजिनरी एंड रियल, दूसरा पार्ट हमारा रियल होता है. सो वी कैन नॉट ऐड अ रियल विद एन इमेजिनरी पार्ट एंड इमेजिनरी पार्ट विद द रियल पार्ट. The imaginary has to be added with the imaginary part, the real has to be added with the real part, like the addition of hours and minutes. Okay, so there also if we'll be using, that also will be overloading of the binary operators. Now let us study the program first. Name of the class is complex. It has two data members x and y. और public में हमने complex नाम का एक, what is it now? Same name of the class. It's a constructor, default constructor. ठीक है, another constructor is being used. So यहाँ पे function overloading तो हो ही रहा है, but this is a parameterized constructor because we are sending the parameters also. So this is a default constructor, this is a parameterized constructor, this is overloading of function. Real वाला part x में जाएगा, imaginary वाला y में जाएगा. ठीक है, next function that we are declaring is an operator function of which is overloading what? Plus. So return type is complex, operator plus is the name of the function, और उसका जो आर्ग्यूमेंट है दैट इज ऑल्सो कॉम्प्लेक्स क्योंकि हमें ऑब्जेक्ट की रिक्वायरमेंट है, वॉइड एंड डिस्प्ले. ठीक है, तो एक फंक्शन को हमने ऑलरेडी यहाँ पे डिफाइन कर दिया है. टू फंक्शंस आर लेफ्ट टू बी डिफाइंड. डिस्प्ले में तो कुछ नहीं करना है आपने, सी आउट एक्स प्लस आयोटा और वाई को डिस्प्ले करना है हमने, सो दैट इट गेट्स द वैल्यू ऑफ द फॉर्म क्या है यहाँ, हाँ 2.5 प्लस आयोटा 3.5 ऐसी फॉर्म आएगी. ठीक है, यू हैव टू नाउ डिफाइन द ऑपरेटर प्लस फंक्शन. इसके लिए कॉम्प्लेक्स टेम्पररी करके हमने एक ऑब्जेक्ट क्रिएट किया है. चलन कॉम्प्लेक्स अगर आप आर्ग्यूमेंट में सेंड कर रहे हो तो यहाँ पे आपको ऑब्जेक्ट बनाना पड़ेगा. ठीक है, नाउ थ्रू दैट ऑब्जेक्ट आई एम accessing the data member. I can do that, and because C is also my one of the object, I can access the data member here also. Similarly for Y. Okay, we'll just understand what is happening here. This is the definition of my addition of the binary addition of the complex number, where I am adding two real parts, storing it in the real part, adding two imaginary parts, storing it in the imaginary part. ठीक है, come to main. अब main में हमने तीन ऑब्जेक्ट्स को क्रिएट किया. द मोमेंट आई राइट ऑन दिस स्टेटमेंट माई दिस डिफॉल्ट कंस्ट्रक्टर गेट्स प्रोवोक्ड. ठीक है, तो ऑब्जेक्ट की क्रिएशन पे ही डिफॉल्ट कंस्ट्रक्टर प्रोवोक हो गया है. देन आई हैव used the explicit way of giving the values to the parameterized constructor. Children, just remember the video. Implicit and explicit, two ways in which you can pass on the values. Okay, so when I say c1 is equal to complex 2.5 3.5, this invokes my constructor 1. कौन सा कंस्ट्रक्टर है मेरा? ये पैरामीटराइज कंस्ट्रक्टर. ठीक है, इसमें वैल्यूज चली गई हैं. और ये वाले में C2 complex 1, this again is invoking the same constructor. So यहाँ से मेरा ये वाला default constructor, let's name it as constructor 1, is being invoked, and this is constructor 2, the parameterized. By these statements my second constructor is being invoked. Now C3 is the object where I am writing C1 plus C2. दो objects को add कर रही हूँ children में. We have never done this. Two objects are never added. I cannot add them until and unless I do a overload of the operator. तो यहाँ पे दो ऑपरेंड्स हैं C1 C2, उनके बीच में प्लस ऑपरेटर है, with the help of which I told you the operator function. जहां पे भी यूज होता है operator, my operator function gets invoked. So ये यूज करते ही this function gets invoked and this process takes place, and hence I get the values of C1 C2 and C3. ठीक है, C1 की वैल्यू ये आ जाएगी, C2 की वैल्यू ये आ जाएगी, और C3 की वैल्यू क्या आ जाएगी? इन दोनों को ऐड करके और इन दोनों को ऐड करके जो वैल्यू बनती है वो वैल्यू आ जाएगी. दिस इज द एग्जांपल फॉर बाइनरी overloading of the operators. Now children, to understand this question further, let us take the steps one by one. पहले तो आपका इसको नोट करो that it takes one argument. ये जो आपका हमने फंक्शन क्रिएट किया है, it takes one argument. ठीक है, it returns also the argument, or it returns the value of the class, and complex उसका member function, and it is a member function of the complex. मतलब ये एक member function है operator plus जो एक argument accept कर रहा है for binary, it is accepting 1. ठीक है, और because return क्या हो रहा है? temp is an object, so उसका return type भी एक class ही हो सकता है. ठीक है, now come to the statement C3 is equal to C1 plus C2. अब इसके लिए ध्यान से सुनो. Now we know that a member function can be invoked. How does a member function gets invoked? By only an object, ठीक है, of the same class. अभी यहाँ पे C1 is taking the responsibility of invoking the function. मतलब हम कैसे लिखते हैं? C1 डॉट ऑपरेटर और ब्रैकेट में लिखा C2. समझ रहे हो? ठीक है, if this is the case children, and C2 are two objects. C1 is taking the responsibility of calling the function, invoking the function, okay, and C2 takes the responsibility of accessing the what data in the function. ठीक है, तो जो ये हमारी स्टेटमेंट है C3 इज इक्वल टू C1 प्लस C2. इट इज एक्चुअली C3 इज इक्वल टू C1 डॉट ऑपरेटर प्लस ब्रैकेट्स में C2. एंड हियर ऑपरेटर प्लस फंक्शन जो है और डेटा मेंबर ऑफ C1 आर एक्सेस्ड डायरेक्टली. ठीक है, तो डेटा मेंबर ऑफ C1 एक ऑब्जेक्ट है, तो C1 के जो डेटा हम डायरेक्टली एक्सेस कर रहे हैं. एंड द डेटा मेंबर्स ऑफ C2, क्योंकि वो एक आर्ग्यूमेंट है that is passed as an argument, this C2 is passed as an argument, that is why it is being accessed with the help of the object of that class. इतनी सी लाइन याद रखनी है आपने, that C1 is the data members of C1 are accessed directly, और C2 क्योंकि वो argument है, that is why it is being accessed with the help of the object of the class. ठीक है. एंड जो टेम्प है हमारा, बिकॉज इट हैज टू स्टोर द वैल्यू विच इज गोइंग टू बी पास्ड थ्रू द ऑब्जेक्ट, तो उसको उसमें स्टोर करना पड़ेगा x की वैल्यू और इसमें स्टोर करनी पड़ेगी y की वैल्यू. सो वी गेट बोथ x एंड y in one object temp, and this temp is sent back, and hence my class receives, because the return type is the class name, that is complex. ठीक है. Children, this has to be understood that C1 will be directly accessed, C2 because it is the argument, it will be accessed with the help of an object, and because we are using two variables here, so we have to use two variables have to be used and sent it to another variable which also has the capacity to store that variable, which is with the help of the object temp, because it has to store both the real and the imaginary part and has to be sent back to the class. This is the explanation of the binary operator overloading. This is another example for unary operator overloading, children. This is an example to increment and decrement the values of the data members A, B. A को increment किया हुआ है, B को भी increment किया हुआ with the help of the function operator. With the help of the function operator minus minus, we are decrementing the values. ठीक है. And here we are writing the variable as in the form of a complex number, और उसको हम जहां पे हमने obj plus plus किया, that means I'm invoking which function, operator plus plus. obj minus minus किया हुआ, that means I'm invoking what, minus minus. तो दो नंबर्स एंटर किए हैं, उनका कॉम्प्लेक्स नंबर तो ये बनता है, बट इंक्रीमेंटेड एंड डिक्रीमेंटेड दोनों दिखा रहा है वो. 2 का 3, 3 का 4 बना, और यहाँ पे इसी को हमने डिक्रीमेंट किया हुआ है, 3 का वापस 2 बन गया और 4 का वापस 3 बन गया है. ठीक है. Now children, another point it has to be seen is that in the first screen we had said that the operator function can both be as a member function and as a friend function. What we have to remember here is when unary operator is overloaded by the means of a member function, it takes no argument. Remember the slide of space, कोई argument नहीं ली थी हमने. Remember the last slide that we saw, there was no argument because we were overloading unary operator, and the operator overloading function being member function. But if the same function is treated as a friend function with the help of a friend keyword, then it will take one argument. ठीक है. and it return, but when the overloaded by the means of a friend function, it takes one argument, and binary operator overloaded through a member function takes one explicit argument if it is a member function, and takes two arguments if it is a friend function. This point has to be remembered because sometimes it comes in the MCQ. So remember, if it is a unary operator overloading, for member functions no arguments, for friend function one argument. For binary operator overloading, for member function one argument, and for friend function, for member function one, for friend function two. This we have to remember. And children, there are certain rules for operator overloading, overloading the operators. First is that we cannot create any operators to be overloaded. We can only use the existing ones. We cannot change the value of the meaning or the identity of the operator. As I gave you the example, plus can only add, it cannot, overloading does not mean कि plus को हम minus भी करवा देंगे. No, that cannot be done. We cannot change the basic meaning of the operator. And then there are certain operators which have restrictions on overloading. So this is the table where we can operate the overload the operator, and these are certains which we cannot overload. These are those operators. So cannot load wale zyada easy hai because there are less in number, so you can remember that. Rest all the operators can be overloaded. Okay, so you have to remember this rules, syntax of operator overloading with one simple example of unary. In practical, you have binary. Thank you, children.